Today I want to talk about Narita Brian and the Sakura Chiyono card, as well as the Seeking the Pearl card. These banners are coming out a little bit later today. I want to see, are these things worth pulling for? Let's go ahead and find out. Narita Brian is a relatively okay character. She can go either pace or late. She can run mediums and longs, and if you give a little bit of pink sparks, she can run the mile. She does have a 10% increase for speed and a 20% growth rate for stamina. Depending on how you decide to play her, I don't believe that this is too terribly bad. If I'm going to run her as a pace on a long, I'm really happy to see the 20% stamina. If I'm going to take her as a late on a medium or a late on a mile, I'd prefer to have just a bit more on the power. However, as long as I do take some stamina sparks, I should be okay there, and then she can kind of juice up with the speed relatively okay on either one of those strategies. The reason why I bring up those in particular is because of her skill Shadow Break. If we take a look at this, you have to be on the final corner, you have to be 2, 3, 4 and so on as far as your position or your placement is concerned, and then the order rate, you have to be within the first half, or I guess the first 3/4 of the group. If it was CM, you'd have to be anywhere between 2 through 7. This one is the Uma behind me has to be closer to the fence than me, and this one is I have to have overtaken somebody. Now what do we get for that? We get for 5 seconds 0.35 target speed. Now this is not terrible. Depending on the track, the final corner could come later or it could come relatively quickly after that final leg has begun. For instance, I want to take a look at the Kyoto racetrack that we're going to be doing the second CM on. If you take a look here, the final leg begins here, and then the final corner is actually over here. So Narita Brian's skill would activate over here. The reason why this is a good thing is because in theory, during this time, you are reaching your top speed, and your acceleration based off of your power is going up and up and up and up. And then by the time it should have peaked already and you should have already reached your top speed, then you can get more target speed to increase the rate at which you are running as you continue on through here. And so as long as she does that overtake, of course she'll be running pace or late. Either one of these strategies I do believe is good, just depending on which distance and what the actual track looks like. As far as her innate abilities, she has straightaway adept. I'm not really the biggest fan of this because it is the baby version of Beeline Burst. For 0.9 seconds, you get 0.15 target speed. That is not a lot. You're not really covering much ground. As a small supplemental skill, this is okay, but it is not anything that is going to be overwhelmingly strong. Medium straightaways is okay as well. However, my biggest issue with this is that it is on a random straight. As a pace chaser or a late surger, if I could have it be on maybe the second half of the middle leg, you know, somewhere on the straight there, or if I could have it be on the final straight, I'd love that a little bit more compared to just a random straight. The reason why Pace Chaser is not a terrible option is you will have access to the preferred position, which is decreasing the fatigue during the middle leg of the race, and that is very good because you're not going to be overhealing and you won't be healing too late. So that middle leg recovery is very good. Home stretch haste is a skill that I do believe is not terrible. I think it really depends on the track itself. If we take a look, Homestretch Haste is the baby version of In Body and Mind, which is a potential 5 skill. So we'll take a look at the skill conditions for this. This is going to say you're in that last spurt condition. Now that can activate right here as soon as the final leg begins. If your Uma has enough stamina, she'll say, hey, I can run as fast as I possibly can, and I can still have like just barely enough stamina as I cross the line. Let me take off and run as fast as I can. That can happen right there. That is what the last spurt condition is referring to. Now when it says a random phase in 3, that is the last spurt of the actual race. So it would be this red part right here. Now, if your Uma doesn't have enough stamina, and maybe she says, hey, I can get it from right here and go onwards, then that skill would activate about right here, because she has to be in that condition while still in the last spurt or the final spurt of the race. Now, this skill is very track dependent in my opinion. Because this track for the CM2 has such a long final leg, this gives me enough time to reach my top speed with the acceleration, and then by the time I go into the final spurt part of the race, then I can say, hey, anything that will increase my target speed is going to be preferred, so that way I can get a little bit more speed and hopefully pull out a win from somebody else. Now, depending on where that activates, ideally it would activate relatively early over here, so that way I can get the full effect of it. But even if it activates just a little bit later, that is still going to be okay. But preferably in that first half of the last spurt is where I would like In Body and Mind or Homestretch Haste to pop off at. Beeline Burst, I did talk about a little bit earlier, Straightaway Adept. Not really too big of a fan of it. The actual duration is not really giving me that much when you look at the target speed. Yeah, the target speed's great, but the duration is so small, it's kind of hard to reach that high of that target speed unless you have an immense amount of power just popping off immediately. It's kind of hard to reach this target speed in this little amount of time unless you pair it with like an Excel skill, which would have to pop off at the exact time, or if you have enough power to reach that target speed that quickly in this amount of time. Otherwise, you're not getting that much bang for your buck with Beeline Burst, in my opinion. Lone Wolf is a very hit or miss skill. Personally, I prefer to have this on my debuffers just so I can spend these small extra amount of points somewhere else. If you do get lucky and you're the only person running Lone Wolf, then this is fine. However, I don't bank on luck because I just don't have that much of it. And so I prefer to put this on someone like my debuffer. And then finally, we do have the Passings Pro that you can get from an event. Whenever you are overtaking someone on a long course or a long track, and as long as it's been more than 5 seconds into the race, then you can get a small little recovery here for your stamina. This is not terrible either. This would work very well with either pace or late surging strategy. The In Body and Mind and Homestretch Haste I think goes very well with either pace or late. Both of them can see good benefits out of this. So the one thing I did not do for Narita Taishin was take a look at her evolved skills, which we'll do for Narita Brian very quickly. This is going to be Beeline Burst, and this will be the evolved version of Homestretch Haste. I don't remember what it was called. However, Beeline Burst will evolve into Decisive Cleave, and the higher tier of Homestretch Haste will go into Hungry Wolf's Fang. Now, this one will just get a little bit more target speed. As we can see here, we go from 0.35 to 0.45. It's not terrible, but it's not anything that I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so great. The one thing that I am like, oh my goodness, this is kind of great, is that Homestretch Haste, the higher tier of Homestretch Haste. If we take a look at the evolution, we go from 2.4 seconds. We still keep that, but now we go from 0.35 to 0.45. And I'm totally okay with that, because if that extends it from, let's just say here, and I get that little bit of extra juice to help me push the line towards that end, I will totally take that. I do think this is a relatively okay skill to pass down, but I don't think you should grab this character to just pass this skill down only. If you do like the late surgers, maybe the long or medium distances, or if you like the pace, she's a relatively okay character. She's not super standout, she's not Omega crazy, but she's just average. She's middle of the pack. I don't believe that you should go full balls to the walls like you would for someone like Seiun Sky, who's coming up next. But, you know, if you maybe get a single or two, you know, and you get lucky, hey, that's great. Can you pick her up in the future? Totally. But is she a priority? No, not by any means. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the support cards. Sakura Chiyono O, the SSR stamina card. Take a look at the skills. We do have Pace, Chaser, Savvy, which I'm still trying to determine how I feel about the Savvy skills. That's something that I'll get back to you on a later date. What does this do? It increases your wisdom and your field of view by 40 and 5 respectively, and then if you get the double circle, it's 60 and 10. Steadfast is not a terrible skill. I don't think it's the end-all be-all of skills. It is for mediums in particular. She also has medium corners as well, so we've got a couple medium skills here. And then we also have a mile skill for shifting gears. This is when you're positioned towards the front during the mid race. So your front runners and your pace chasers will benefit from this. I'm thinking, you know, first person that comes to my head would be someone like Silent Suzuka on that mile. If we take a look at the skills that you can get from the events, you have Spring Runner, you've got Prepared to Pass, and then you've also got Speed Start. Now, Prepared to Pass is the baby version of Speed Star. For Speed Star, you get 1.2 seconds of increased target speed of 0.35. Now, this is just a little bit better than Beeline Burst for two different reasons. One, the duration is just slightly longer, and two, it's the actual positioning of the skill itself. This procs at a much more attractive timing than Beeline Burst does. When we take a look at the training events, now the reason why I'm not too super crazy about this card, first one we have is skill points. The next one we have, if you pick your top option, you have a chance to either heal a negative effect or you just lose 10 energy, which kind of sucks. The bottom option, however, is pretty interesting. You get the energy and mood. And then on her third event chain, this is what kind of makes me a little sad, because if you told me I had the 100% chance to grab Speed Star, this would be a little bit better, but instead it's going to be a coin flip between Speed Star and Prepared to Pass if you pick the top option, which is the option that you would prefer to choose, because that's how you're going to get Speed Star off of this card. Your random events, you can either grab 20 power and lose some energy, or you can grab some energy and then get some skill points, and then you can get your Spring Runner, in theory, guaranteed, as long as the event procs. Now, as far as the usability of this card, if you get it at 0 LB, I mean, hey, it's a free SSR. Hopefully you didn't do too many pulls for it. What do you get for it? You get a small amount of specialty priority. However, this would be more of a roaming support, a floating support, whatever you want to call it, because it still does have that training effectiveness, and it does have some decent mood and friendship bonus. Whenever it trains with another rainbow hit, it can increase its stat given by just a little bit more. At 1 LB, you will get your stamina bonus, which is going to be nice because it is a stamina card. You're going to be hitting it on the stamina in theory. And then at 3 LB, now you're going to start getting more fans and race bonus. That won't really be too much more impactful until Scenario 2 and Scenario 3. However, this card is not a card that I would say you should go all in on, because one, the skills aren't really the most attractive skills in the world, number one. Number two, you'd have to get it to 3 LB in order to take advantage of that fan bonus and race bonus on the card. And then number three, even if you were to get it to MLB, it's not like there's the biggest jump in the world when you look at the hint frequencies, and your hint levels don't even go up. If we were to compare this card to something like a Super Creek at MLB, while you do have the mood effectiveness of 60 compared to nothing on the Super Creek, you got to take a look at that training effectiveness. She's just going to help way more while she's roaming in comparison to Sakura Chiyono O. If we also consider Super Creek as a roaming support with 55, for Sakura to have 35 specialty priority, what does that say about her? That means she really may not turn out on stamina. I know my Super Creeks do not like to be at stamina. The one thing she does have going for her, I really do believe why she'd be here, is for those skills. If for whatever reason in the future, maybe the code of these skills changes and then a lot of these skills get a lot better, then I could see some increased utility on this card. But as of right now, where we are in Global, I cannot recommend the card, or at least I cannot say, yo, you should go all in on this card. If we take a look at Seeking the Pearl, we've got Firm Conditions, which, okay, hey, that's relatively okay. We've got Pace Strategy, you get whenever you are passed by another runner in the middle leg. Okay, not terrible. I do like the mid leg stamina recovery skills. We have Slightly Decrease the Fatigue when positioned towards the back in the early race. I'm not a big fan of early race stamina skills, especially on the smaller tracks, because this says it's for a mile. Now, Unyielding Spirit, slightly increasing your passing ability, is not terrible. However, the issue with that is the overtake. It could happen very early on, and if you put this on someone that's like a pace chaser, lay surger, or end closer, it may not be the greatest time. If it's on a front runner, it could be a little bit okay if you're fighting for that first place position. However, still a little bit tough to go after this card for just one skill. For our sprints, we have the sprint straightaways, which is going to increase our target speed by 0.15 for 3 seconds, but it's on a random straight. Not a big fan of randomness because that could proc too early or too late, just depending. I will say sprinting gear is relatively okay because it's a sprint. The acceleration is always going to be good because there will be some tracks that don't have corners, and that is just going to be what it's going to be. So in theory, depending on the actual track itself, these two could work very well together. However, for the ones that do have corners and do have a little bit extra randomness to it, it may not be as effective. Lucky 7 is a skill from an event. I'm not too keen of Lucky 7 because it's not anything that I can like guarantee will happen for me. That's why it's called Lucky. We've got shifting gears here, which is going to be mainly for those pace chasers and front runners. For 1.2 seconds you get the target speed. That's not the worst thing in the world, but it's going to just be randomly on that middle leg. So it could be at the beginning of the middle leg and do absolutely nothing for me, or it could be at the later end of the middle leg and actually help me out going into the final leg. And then Umamusume, if you've just got a lot of people around you, then you get 0.15 target speed for 3 seconds. While this doesn't sound terrible, I do want to do more testing before I say anything about this because I do have this on my gold ship and I really haven't seen too much from it. So I need to do more testing before I say if I like this skill or not. On the card itself, we've got that Lucky 7 with the mood up, or we can get 30 energy, which if I had this card, I would take the 30 energy or that power. And then here we just get that shifting gears with the power and guts. On the random events, we can get some energy and mood, or we can get that Umamusume if that's what you want, or the 20 wisdom. Now, this is a guts card, and we don't have the guts update just yet, so it's not anything that I would say, oh my goodness, we gotta have it. But taking a look at this card at 0LB, for an SR card, this is not terrible. I do love that it has the initial friendship gauge. It does have mood and friendship bonus. However, it doesn't have training effectiveness. One thing that it does have going for it is as you get more of it, you will get higher fan bonus, and you will also get higher hint levels and that hint frequency. While it is okay at 0LB, I do believe it starts feeling a little bit more serviceable at 1LB, and then at 3LB is where I would like to have it if I couldn't get it to max LB. Now, is this something that I think you should go all in, balls to the walls? No, not by any means. It is not paired with that attractive of an SSR card, at least in my opinion for right now. So I don't think that you should be pulling for these support cards by any means. Especially with Seiun Sky just right around the corner, it's very hard to say that you should pull for anything because her ability is so strong and it changes so many things for that front running meta. If you agree or disagree with the assessment, please let me know down below. I'd love to see where we differ in our analyses of these cards and characters, so that way I can be a little bit better with my future analyses of different cards and characters. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more Umamusume content. A very big shout out to all my channel supporters. Thank you so much for supporting me and allowing me to continue to make more content for y'all. Also, right above me somewhere will be a video that the algorithm believes that you will enjoy if you want to see more Umamusume content from me. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.